us examples and messages for today as well. Brothers and sisters, the resilience of the Nabi of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam serves as a source of inspiration for us, especially as we are witnessing the ongoing suffering of our brothers and sisters for almost 1 year this month and this week. Brothers and sisters, nearly a year has passed that the escalation of their struggles has not been acknowledged by many and forgotten by so much. But we also reflect on their lives through the life of the Prophet ﷺ, on how he taught us to navigate through trials with faith and patience. So let's begin with the very early stage of the life of Rasulullah ﷺ, the first example. In the early days of Makkah, when the Nabi of Allah ﷺ began the message of Islam, a man for so many years who was known as As-Sadiq, he was known as Al-Amin. The titles that were given to him where the families and people of Makkah would wish and pray that their children were like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But as soon as he gave the message of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything flipped against him. One of the most difficult times, and every moment was very, very challenging. But one of the challenging moments of Rasulullah's life that was not only for him, but the entire Muslim community, was a boycott that happened in the valley of Abi Talib. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but if you can imagine standing in Makkah Mukarramah in front of Babi Abdul Aziz, and you're looking not towards the Kaaba, but towards the buildings. Towards your right side, you will see the big towers. Towards the left side, you will see the moments of people going, and you will see a road in front of you called the Ajiyad Road. Historically, if you walk down around 500 feet, you will find a small place towards your left side on Ajiyad Road, and that was known as the Valley of Abi Talib, Shaybi Abi Talib. And I give you this physical presence for you to understand that it is mentioned that the cries of the children because of hunger from that valley could be heard inside the Kaaba. For 3 years, not 1 day, not 2 days, not 1 week, not 1 month. That's a long distance. A far away place that the cries of the children of the Muslims in the valley of Abi Talib for 3 years. And they said we had nothing except for leaves that we would grind and we would eat. And we had sores in our mouth because there was nothing to eat. That the plants that we were eating were cutting our mouths. But they were deprived, along with the moments of being deprived of their necessities and the foods. This reminds us of the life of our brothers and sisters in Gaza at this moment as well. But what is the takeaway message from this very story in the seerah of Rasulullah ﷺ? That I want all of us to not lose hope, not lose our resilience, not lose our faith and patience and trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, in the face of adversity and difficulty, the Nabi of Allah ﷺ remained firm. He never allowed his faith or mission to waver and move from its place. Likewise, brothers and sisters, the moments that we're seeing as Muslim Ummah at large, despite relentlessness and so many issues and hardships, we need to hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hope and trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And resilience is born when you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how resilience begins. How do you create that? It all begins with trusting Allah. If it doesn't make sense at this moment, don't worry. If you're doing the right thing, Allah will open the doors for you. Even if there's no acceptability, even if you don't see the light of goodness in front of you, know that if you trust Allah and you're doing the right thing, Allah will open the doors of goodness for you. The second quick story from the seerah of Rasulullah ﷺ, there are so many from the beginning to the end. The second quick story is the story of the people of Ta'if, the Nabi of Allah ﷺ took. He was met with the greatest hostility The people ridiculed the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man upon whom the Sahaba said, I looked at the star, I looked at the moon which was complete. He says, I saw the Badr, the full moon. And I looked at the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and wallahi, the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was much more illuminated and brighter than the full moon. This is the Sahabi are saying. But that same face is being spat upon when he's walking through the streets of Ta'if. And when he's leaving, he's being stoned for miles, despite all of this humiliation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not retaliate with anger. Instead, he prayed for the guidance of these people. And his famous dua was, Allahumma inni ashku da'afa quwwati wa qillata hilati. Oh Allah, I complain to you for my own weakness, my scarcity of sources, my lack of resources, and humiliation that I have been subjected to by the people. But oh Allah, if you are with me, then I have no worries. Oh Allah, if you are with me, then I have no worries. The message from this very story of Rasulullah ﷺ relating for today and for our brothers and sisters in Gaza, brothers and sisters, like the Nabi of Allah ﷺ was treated with unjust treatment, and yet we saw his patience, his ability to endure and continuously prayed. We see our brothers and sisters. And we also saw the Nabi of Allah ﷺ, the same individuals, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the doors for them as well. But it took some time. So for us, that we can't give up, that we cannot lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, we also find from the journey of Mi'raj, from the battle of Badr, from the treaty of Hudaybiyah, all of these incidents from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are great examples for us. In the time of Badr, the Nabi of Allah ﷺ faced his own brothers and sisters, his own relatives standing in front of him having no resources. But the trust and the resilience allowed the direct help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, we are also in that very situation where, as the Muslims said, we barely had anything to protect ourselves. And the 1,000 that came from Mecca were completely laden from the top to the bottom and all protected. The similar situation in terms of material and resources exists today. But brothers and sisters, one thing to remember as Muslims, as believers, that victory is not about power and might. It is about standing on the side of truth and justice and faith and connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If victory was a source of success, then who would hold Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu on that side where he gave his life for faith and patience and for the ummah itself? So it's not always about power and might. It's about standing on the right side of justice and truth and faith. We may not see the results, and we ask Allah to show us the results of khair and barakah for our brothers and sisters. But if our eyes don't witness the success of the ummah, but we know if we're connected to Allah, Allah will give us the success on the day of Qiyamah. We hope for that success in this world. We pray for safety and ease and comfort, but we always have to remember that it's not about power and might. It's about standing for the truth at all time. Brothers and sisters, as a global community, we must unite together as an ummah with the people who are suffering, and especially our brothers and sisters in Gaza, believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help is near and it's close. And when we Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not leave us. My final thought from the story of Hudaybiyah, and we'll make final dua. The treaty of Hudaybiyah. For many of us who study the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left Mecca at the age of 53, 13 years into prophethood. He couldn't stay in the place that he loved so dearly. While leaving Mecca, he cried. He said, Mecca, I love you. I would have never left you if it wasn't for the people of Mecca. He left and he settled in Medina. It was approximately 6 years, age 59. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sees a dream, And he wants to come back and sees the Kaaba with his own eyes. 6 years have passed, he hasn't seen. He gathers 400 Sahaba, 1400 Sahaba. We all know the story, we heard this so many times. And when they're trying to reach Mecca, they are stopped. They're not allowed to see the Kaaba, they are made to take off their ihram and cut, sacrifice their animals. So the Treaty of Hudaybiyah in the life of Rasulullah, and I'm all connecting this to resilience of the Nabi of Allah, at first was a huge setback for the Muslims. Many companions were disheartened. They didn't want to take off their ihram. Sahaba said, no, we're not going to sacrifice our animals. A moment that was never seen and heard before, that the Sahaba would say no to the Nabi of Allah. It was that emotional, physical, spiritual shock that they couldn't take it. But subhanAllah, they accepted the mandate and the challenge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he accepted the treaty, knowing that the patience and the strategy that the Muslims would lead towards the greater victory one day. And indeed, it was that pivotal moment that later led towards the conquest of Makkah. Fatah Makkah, the victory of Makkah, became the reason from the basis of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Sometimes these losses and difficult moments in our lives become the reason of greater victories in our lives, brothers and sisters. The trials and difficulties that we see in our own individual lives. I'm not even saying Gaza at this moment, but our own individual lives. We see challenges. But brothers and sisters, the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. We cannot let the setbacks and difficulties ever make us feel and lose hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, let's conclude by saying this and making this dua in just a few moments, that the reminder of the resilience of Rasulullah ﷺ is the beacon of hope for all of us in the times of hardship. He taught us, no matter how severe the trials are, be it Gaza or be it my own home at this moment, the difficulty that I'm going through, or any one of us are going through, that we remain steadfast, we remain patient, we remain hopeful. We remain steadfast, we remain patient, we remain hopeful. Brothers and sisters, we need to learn from our brothers and sisters of Gaza, their resilience, their strength, in all the times of difficulties. And I conclude with this dua that, oh Allah, you strengthen our faith and grant us the resilience of the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh Allah, ease the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Gaza and across the world. Oh Allah, bring victory to the oppressed and guide the oppressors to the path of justice. Oh Allah, make it easy for us as an ummah to stand together for one another. And oh Allah, allow our eyes to see the success of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam once again. And oh Allah, allow each and every one of us to be a source of khair and barakah and blessings in our lives and the lives of others. Wa ma alayna illa
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله